Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. So the car's still in progress. It's still being polished right now. I'm wet sanding it and polishing it. It's leaving a hazy appearance after I polish it with the first, I guess, compound of M105. So I'm guessing it's just not cutting deep enough. It's a black car. Obviously, you're going to see all the imperfections. So I'm waiting on a wool pad to do a deeper cut on those areas because every little spot that I've wet sanded, after I buff it, the next day you could still see the haze in there. So, yeah, it is what it is. So I'm going to try a wool pad and cut it a little bit deeper to see how it looks afterwards. But in the meantime, I decided to do a JDM power window conversion to the car. This wasn't something that I was going to do because it's quite costly and expensive, but I've wanted it for a long time, and I always want power windows. In all my EFs, I had power windows, and this one's no exception. I was thinking I was going to leave it and live with it, but it is what it is. So I did get these set of power windows. So these are the power windows that I got. They're obviously right-hand drive switches, so I'm going to be mounting this upside down on the driver's side, and as well as this. But this, you can actually switch the switch upside down, so it should be fine with the wiring. It came with these brackets and all that stuff. I paid about $300, $350 with customs and everything, so Canadian, so it's not cheap. It's pretty expensive. So I've been fabbing these little plugs in for them because obviously they didn't come with them. So how I did this is I just got a piece of trim, those block off plates, the square ones on your dash or even in the center console, etc. I had a couple of them lying around, so I decided to cut a couple of these pieces into shape. So I traced out the whole size, cut into shape, shaved it down thin enough, took some of the leftover plastic pieces, glued them to the back like that. You can see that it's whatever. And then it fits right in there. And it's snug. One of the issues I encountered was this. This is my door panel that was on my car originally. You notice the previous one I cut a hole for the tweeter. This was not me. I don't install fancy sound systems like this because I don't really care. But it interferes with the power door lock, I guess, that bezel. I'll grab it. I'll show you guys real quick. All right, so here's the bezel. And you notice that once it lines up with the door where it's supposed to be, it basically covers up part of this tweeter hole. And then it's even worse on the driver's side. So what I've decided to do is, since I have a spare set of SI door panels, but obviously it's sagging from here, I'm going to merge two sets of door panels together. Essentially, I'm going to be taking this door panel apart, and I'm going to take the other set apart, and I'm going to combine them. So it removes the tweeter hole because the top section of the other set is in perfect condition. Obviously, I'm going to be cutting the slot a little bit bigger for the power window bezel, but other than that, it's going to be perfect. All right, so here is basically that one passenger side so far. I've taken this whole piece apart. Yeah, I know what you guys are thinking. Probably, oh man, you're ruining a good set of door panels. But no, unfortunately, it's not that great. Let me show you guys. So this is the other door panel. I tried to repair this, by the way, because of the sagging here, but you can see that it's pretty gross. I basically lifted up the material and then applied some more glue adhesive to it, and then tried to bond it. Obviously, the vinyl was disengaging from the foam, and the foam was also disengaging from the panel. So it didn't glue. It glued some parts and lifted in some other parts because you basically need to glue the foam and that to the panel, then from the foam to the vinyl. And I just did one step. Basically, wherever I needed glue, I applied some. So I've drilled out these rivets. I know a lot of people just drill them out. I didn't do that. I used a spot weld remover. If you guys watch my previous videos, I've been using this to basically do my rust repairs and remove spot welds on the car. I used a spot weld remover and I drilled these out. So basically it just drills it out enough for it to pop in. So these are still in perfectly good height. You can see all of them are still decent. There's a couple methods I could use to reattach these. Since these are still pretty good, I could use some shorter self-tapping screws and tap them into the panel. That's one method. The other method is to plastic weld it back on to the other panel. That's basically the method I'm going to be using. I'm going to be doing it with a soldering iron. And if I need to fill anything, a white zip tie will do, or any color zip tie, to be honest. Nobody's going to see the bottom here. All right, so this is the area that I'm going to basically cut. I'm going to use a Dremel. I'm going to put on my respirator, and we're going to just go to town. All right, so that's basically the hole cut out. It fits perfectly. It needs to have enough clearance for this hole to kind of go through, because it's gonna bolt through to the bracket from here. All right, so there you go. Power window switches are kind of mounted. I had to cut the hole kind of weird, so it does kind of flare out this way. I'm wondering if it's supposed to be a full rectangle, but I didn't want to cut this part. You know, cut just what I need. I mean, this should be enough for it to bolt down. All right, guys, so inside here, there's this pin here. How you would get that out, you'll need basically some tweezers. You borrow your girlfriend's or whatever, and there's 3 little prongs on them, and you would squeeze 2 with this, and then you push down with like a small precision screwdriver. Managed to get the pin out. Needle nose pliers didn't fit in there unless you have the little mini needle nose pliers, but I found using some tweezers work. Then the pin basically comes out. It just comes out like that. You see there's a little 3 little prongs on the top there, and then this just slides right out like this. Be careful. It looks like there's a washer in there that goes onto the top part. So I don't think there's any other washer, but yeah. So this will get swapped to the driver's side, and then the driver's side to the passenger side. So as you notice here, when you switch it over, this will hit this area. So basically you need to grind away a whole bunch of metal, or the rods are going to keep hitting. So I finished cutting this and modifying it. Basically, you want this part to look almost like your stock one. So like I cut it out, and now it has, like, if the rod goes here, it won't bind or anything. So perfect pivoting action. So essentially where you're going to be cutting this, by the way, is the flipped over driver's side now. So it's just like that, that, and that. So that's the cutout that you need to cut to make sure that the lock is free. All right, so here's the driver's side all modified as well. As you can see, pivots perfectly. The rod will go down here, no binding. All right, so here's the inside of the door panel on the driver's side. So as you can see, it hooks up to these 3 points here. This lock will also hook up to these 3 points as well. There's 2 additional points, which is this one and this one. So you can see that there's already 2 holes here, but they're not gonna line up because they're out a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put one of these kind of a clip in here, and then I'm gonna get a piece of metal and extend it out and have this bolt onto the piece of metal, and then bolt the piece of metal onto the frame. I'll do the same for the bottom as well. I think they do kind of line up. It's just that they're off like a slight bit. How you would get this mechanism out is you'll have to undo these 3 screws first, and in here there's a little clip that you're gonna have to push down and then pull the rod towards you this way. So once you pop the clip downwards, you'll free the rod, and then you'll pop it this way. So as you can see, this is how it comes off. I don't know if you can see the clip in there, but that white clip, basically, yeah, you just turn it downwards and this comes off. Now it's easy to just kind of unhook it from the back, and then you can put in the new lock. All right, so the bracket is in. The other thing you have to note is this right here is sticking out a little bit too much. This was actually supposed to support this hole. So as you can see, it's kind of going up a little bit to support this hole here. Essentially, what I'm going to be doing is just kind of bend it this way a little bit so that it's still kind of held down here, but not to this extent, because right now it's sticking out this way too much. We want it to kind of sit back a little bit more flush. All right, guys, so this is how it's currently mounted. I finally managed to get it in there. I've only held it in with one screw because I really needed to line this screw up. So right now it's still missing this inside screw, but everything is lined up. It was like before I finished mounting it, it was actually rubbing here. So now it's fine. It's all like smooth and everything. So I'll take this apart and I'll show you guys how I actually mounted it. All right, so this is how it's currently mounted. So these are the 3 stock point locations, right? And then I put a plastic, I guess, clip in there so that I could use any kind of screw and hold it in. Then I made myself a bracket using those actuator things for power door locks. This piece in the back here is just a cut piece that I use to bend up and use some screws to mount it in there. Inside back here, obviously you see that green clip. I put a clip in there. These are actually universal clips. I just got them in a bag of basically universal fasteners and clips that are plastic. And I popped them in these little holes and they fit. So I was able to kind of bolt them down. This bracket here, it took a lot of fiddling around and banging and bending to get it to the right shape so that I can mount them flush. They're still not perfectly flush. There's still like maybe a slight gap on the bottom where this is mounted, but you can't see it. And also I noticed that this hole I cut a little bit too big. So if you really look hard enough, you could see that this area is kind of sticking out, but it's okay. It's not that noticeable. So this is actually fine. And yeah, that's basically it. I'm going to basically take this door panel apart now. I'm going to take the top off and then I'm going to merge it with my other top of the, other panel. Alright guys, so that's plastic welded in. I've redone all these rivets. You don't see the hole anymore because I've obviously melted the plastic into it, but it's holding up pretty good. It's not coming apart or anything, so it's as good as new, I guess. I mean, this is not visible anyways, but now I have a sag-free door panel and I have the hole cut out for the power window. Alright, so here's the passenger side. As you can see, I already got this all mounted up. I've looped the harness in here already. I still got to work on the regulators, but I haven't had a chance to do that yet. As well, I installed my door lock actuator. It actually mounts right here, 2 screws, drilled them out, and yeah, this is a perfect spot. So here is one of my sedan regulators. I bought these brand new from Rock Auto. You can get them for like $60 Canadian each, probably cheaper if you guys are American because you guys have the American dollar, but and then obviously I have to pay for shipping to come to Canada. Don't worry about this sign. For some reason they tagged it wrong. It says Accord on there, but it's not Accord, it's actually a Civic one. So basically this regulator, all these holes bolt up into the door. The only thing that we have to change is this rail that holds the piece of glass. So you could drill out your old one from your cranking one, your manual windows, and take this one out as well and swap them. And then you'll basically bolt this whole unit up in there, wire it up, and you'll have power windows. All right guys, so here are the 2 regulators. That's the manual one, that's the power one. So the first things first we're gonna have to do is swap the rails, which is this rail here. We gotta swap this one over to there. So how you get this one out is you have to drill this basic rivet out. So it's just, I think, just one rivet on this side. You drill it out and you can slide this whole assembly out. I think in the past, what people usually do is put a screw in there. so that it still holds it in place. So I'll probably still do that, but you'll have to flip it around to drill it. And then this rail, looks like all you have to do is just bend this metal tab. So I've got some pliers there, and I'm just going to bend it out. There you go. That was really easy to take out. So let's leave it on top because there's grease on there. There you go. All right, so there you go. I got them in. Since these are square rollers, you're gonna have to grind off a whole bunch of it to fit into the stock roller. I'm sure if I had aftermarket manual windows, they would have probably been the square rollers as well, but it is definitely needing some modification. So I couldn't get these rollers off. Once they're in there, they're in there. I think they're riveted in. But same with these. So instead of trying to break them and whatnot, I just grinded the two sides down so that they slide onto the rail properly. Then I'm just gonna add a whole bunch of grease to it so that it slides properly, because I did wipe a lot of it off. And then I'm gonna add basically a screw here just to hold it in place so that so that they won't come out. All right, so the new window regulator is mounted up, and I have the harness here. I kind of pinned to the wires so that I can test it with a battery charger, essentially. So originally the window was not closing properly. It left like a slight gap on the outside, but I managed to kind of fix the issue. So the issue lies between this balancer beam here. So it is slightly shorter than the stock beam, but in my past where I've done the power window install, I didn't have to really change this beam. All I had to do was pry out this hole a little bit so that it would mount on. It's just slightly shorter so that it didn't mount. It was just slightly off. So I kind of bent the hole a little bit, added a bolt with a washer on it, and then it kind of attached fine. Now the window does close all the way. I'll just test it in a second and show you guys. There you go, rolls down. And then we roll it up. So all you have to do is just switch the wires around. This harness here has 4, so you just have to figure out which 2 wires are the ones that you have to use to roll it up and down. There's 2 wires that are supposed to be. The Honda manual will show you. I'll show you guys in a quick bit afterwards to see which one it is. There you go, and it's closed all the way. So with the wires, obviously there's 4 wires. The harness obviously plugs onto the top here. So it would be these 2 here that you need to use to test the regulator. So 1 and 2. All right, guys. So now it's pretty much ready for wiring. I've got the relay all wired up with the fuses and everything. I will post, I guess, in this video, the wiring diagram I'm using. I got it from the Honda manual. I wrote it out myself by tracing it, and that way I could just map all the wires. So this is basically going to be the relay that's going to hook up right to the fuse box. This, already notice I've extended all the wires. It's ready to loop into the car. Same with the passenger side as well. One thing to note is I'm not going to explain wire by wire. You have to just read the wiring diagram and figure it out on your own. It gets kind of, you have to understand the wiring and where each thing's going, right? So I'll post the wire diagram, but as far as me showing each individual wire, I'm not going to do that. I have mapped out every single wire. You see the little green tape, so I know where each wire is supposed to go. All right, guys. So now just test out the power windows onto the accessory. Oh, I have that on. So onto the accessory. So power windows are all done up. I've carbon fiber wrapped this because, you know, I didn't like the upside down wording, but there you go. That's the auto down. That's the auto up. That's the passenger side. And one thing to keep in mind is before you fully install this, put some silicone lubricant into the channels so it helps it move a little bit smoother. And now this is the passenger side switch. There you go. They work flawlessly. It did keep popping some fuses when I did both at the same time, but we could try it right now. I tried a different fuse spot, so it should be okay on the fuse box now. It didn't pop anything. Yeah, seems good. Yep, so no fuse popping, so that is good. Yeah, my door panel is really dirty. Still need to clean it, but everything is all back and good. As well, I have made myself these to make them look a little bit better. To match this, I carbon fiber wrapped that as well, if you can see. So it looks pretty darn good. So it's got some contrast, but that's basically the power windows. I'll show you guys real quick on the fuse box where you actually gotta hook up some of the power, and then I'll show you my diagram, I guess. As you can see, this right here, this wire is where you need to hook it up for ignition 12 constant, as well as I tapped into this here with this 15 amp right here, which is number 13. That is where it goes to the second power on the relay, so you get the accessory and all that stuff. All right, guys, so this is my basic wiring diagram here that I've used. I mapped it all out. You see the top, it says 1 and 2, and then these are just the connectors and how they face. And then I drafted out where each wire and color is supposed to go. And I obviously labeled everything on the wiring harness as well. And this is where how you would wire the relay. So you'll need two 20 amp fuses here. This goes to, I guess, the power window switches. And then I guess number 30 goes to the 12 volt, which is on the fuse box, which the third spot that I showed you guys. And then number 13 fuse, which is the fuse tap, and then you got to ground it. And then over here, the passenger side, the regulator 1 and 2, those go to, I guess, switch E and B for the wiring. As you can see, E and B. And then those other 3 go to the driver side for the passenger. Here is the driver one, and it's basically all matching. Where it says repin, those are where I had to flip the wires, depin it and repin it, so that, you know, up is actually the down because I flipped the switches, right? So I need to depin and repin them. So essentially, for the driver side, it's just switch on I and H. So those two there, those just have to get switched around. And then on the same switch, since the passenger one you don't have to do anything with because you could just rotate the switch upside down, this one you have to. So G and C on this harness here, so G and C, those have to be depinned and repinned, and you'll get the up as the down and the down as the up, if that makes any sense, like this, because originally it would have been opposite. All right, guys, so that's basically it for the power window install. I hope this helps you guys out. There's not many resources out there to kind of show a whole install like this, but this is using the JDM power windows that are right-hand drive, flipped upside down, and using the sedan regulators. You get the regulators pretty cheap off of Rock Auto, so you know it's really like not necessary to get like old used OEM ones. I mean, unless they're in really good shape. But brand new regulators work just as good, although they are aftermarket. But that's basically the install, guys. I hope it helps you guys out. If you haven't already, please comment, like, and subscribe, and share my videos. As always, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.